And helping me, or actually I'm helping him, Jake Barron from Efficiency Vermont is going to be my co-presenter today. Program is obviously, this is Green Mountain Power's cold climate heat pump program. Is that what you all thought you were coming for today? You're all in the right room, right? Okay, good. If you could pass the registration forms kind of into the middle and up if you haven't already given them to us, we appreciate that. Be sure that we get one of these. This is how you get credit for being here today. And later you'll see in order to get rebates, you have to have credit for being here today. So you definitely want to make sure I get one of these since the meeting is free anyway. We won't send you a bill or anything. And also, by sending us the information, we'll keep you on the email list and keep you posted on how the program is going. So that would be the other reason you want to do that. What we've done, we've got a whole lot of handouts that we're going to be sharing with you. This first one is we took notes for you. So this is all of the slides. Okay, so you don't have to take notes. You can just relax and watch. So if you want to pass these around, I'm sure we've got enough of those. And we've also written the program up, which pretty much is the same as the slides, in a nice 4-color piece that kind of explains the program, answers questions. So if you want to be sure you get a copy of one of these too. So if you want to pass them around.
If we don't have enough, okay. If we don't have enough, all of this information is going to end up on the Efficiency Vermont website. And through your registration form, we're going to be sending out, if you give us an email address, we'll send you a link to where all that stuff is going to be on the website. So make sure you put your email address if you have one.
From that one.
Okay, I also want to recognize Bruce Bentley is in the back, is Green Mountain Power. Bruce is going to be also sharing as he sees fit today. So so when he starts talking back, you wonder who he is. He's the boss. This is his program. We're just the talking heads up here. Okay, this program was started by the Community Energy and Efficiency Development Fund, or you may have heard the term seed fund kicked around. I think it's been on NPR a few times, place like that. And this fund was developed, it came out of the Green Mountain Power CVPS merger. Okay? And there's a whole lot of programs that they're going to be doing, and you're going to probably hear a lot about building performance contractors, WAP guys, are all going to all be hearing about other parts of this program. But this one is a small part of the program. The goal for this part is to introduce a new technology to Vermont. We've had heat pumps in Vermont for years and years, but they were never very successful because the older heat pumps just didn't perform very well in cold weather. The breakthrough that we're trying to introduce and model here is a new high efficiency heat pump that works well down to 5 degrees. So this is a big breakthrough. It's a big change from heat pumps previously. They've been around for a long time in Japan and in Europe, but they finally have worked their way up to to Vermont. And this goal of this program is to at least put in 50 air-to-air ductless cold climate heat pumps and 10 high-efficiency air-to-water central heat pumps. We'll talk about them in a bit too. In the former CVPS territory by mid-2014. So that's what we're trying to do. Okay. If the at least 50, we're going to put them. We encourage you to put in as many as you can sell, but we have rebates for at least 50, possibly more. We're going to give out rebates till we run out of money. Is basically the plan. So we're trying to run all the rest of the program as efficiently as possible, so we can have as much money available for rebates as we can. Hmm?
You need one?
Yeah, we got those first. Okay, so if this is a very interesting potential diversification for you. I think first off, if you are already an HVAC contractor, a lot of you are already putting these in. How many of you are already putting these units in? Okay, great. So this is all going to be pretty much redundant for you. Matter of fact, feel free to correct us if we say anything wrong, because you guys probably know more about this stuff than we do. Some of you, though, maybe a heating contractor who has not tried this before, maybe you're thinking about getting into air conditioning, this would be a fantastic way for you to get into the air conditioning business. Okay, this is a pilot program. Okay, that's why it's a limited rebate, it's a limited time. And the whole idea is to use the data we collect from the program. We're going to ask for some data back, how many fuel usage for the last 2 years, for all customers that get into the program and get a rebate, and 10 units we're going to monitor very closely. So we're going to be asking you to maybe recommend some candidates for those monitoring programs. We'll explain that later too. Then we're going to collect all this information and really be able to get a metric on how well these units are going to perform in our Vermont climate. There has been a lot of work done in the Pacific Northwest, in Oregon and Washington, and they've worked very well. But as you know, the Pacific Northwest is a little different climate than this. It's wetter but warmer. So the question is, okay, what if it's a little drier and a lot colder? How are they still going to do it? So that's what we're going to try to do. This is a learning process for all of us. The former CVPS territory, we have a map here. Pass this out. You can get these around. The printing is pretty small, but and I'm colorblind, so I can't see this, but I understand there's brown and green on here. Okay. The brown part is former CVPS territory. And the line kind of goes roughly from Virgins over to roughly White River Junction. But then there's an interesting little finger that comes up and wraps around St. Albans, kind of starts just north of Burlington and does that. And there's also a finger that comes up to St. Johnsbury up in here. So probably this one is not so much of interest to you, but I imagine this one definitely is. Okay. And I think if when in doubt, just ask your customer that you're talking to. Did you write bills to CVPS at one time? Then you're in the program. And really what this is all about is just an ongoing initiative that the fuel dealers industry, or the home heating industry and the building performance industry are starting to try to work together. That's is one of the more exciting parts of this, is to drive those partnerships that we've been talking about in a couple of meetings that a lot of you have been to and you've heard about before. So the idea here is to put together a proposition how to help your customer lower their energy usage. Okay, and those of you that are already heating contractors and have good, strong relationships with your customers, to leverage that relationship to maybe go into energy conservation as a new business for yourself. And the trick is to build on what you're good at and then partner up with complementing businesses to create this total seamless solution for your customers. Because historically it's been HVAC guys competing against building performance guys for limited dollars, and we decided, we thought we were competitors, and we would say, oh, you don't want to mess around with those foam guns and stuff. You want to put in a new boiler or furnace, and then of course building performance guys are saying, you won't save any money with a new boiler. What you really want to do is seal up the band joist and the sill plate. So we've seen ourselves as being competitors. Well, that's been crazy, because we're trying to do the same thing. And the whole house is a system, and the heating system is part of that system. And if we all start thinking that way, thinking organically and thinking about this together, it's going to make a lot more sense for all of us, including our customers, and maybe we'll get a lot more jobs done. And if we're not careful, maybe we can make some money doing this, which is the idea, right? Okay, so what we're kind of proposing is that we find a house that needs help. I think Gay Simonton calls them gushers, houses that are using a lot of fuel. One of you serves as the general contractor. You do the work that you can do, and you sub out the work that you can't do. Okay. Do co-op marketing maybe with your partners, and maybe even I see us going eventually to two-person audits, where the heating guy and the home performance guy go in together and do an audit until you train each other about how to do the other half of the audit. But obviously, the other thing is to go for a one-visit close. Try to do the audit and the close, get the name on the dotted line all at once. That's kind of the goal for all of this. And then coordinate the work to minimize disruptions. General sends one bill, pays all the subs, and then you do follow-up, get free referrals, which starts the whole thing over again. So that's sort of the partnership plan. As far as the heat pump part of this, right now, unfortunately, there's only a few units that fit our criteria for high-performance heat pumps, and all of them are single head at this point. So it's going to be outside compressor, inside unit, and just one inside unit. If you need to do two parts of the house, you're going to have two compressors outdoors right now. We hope in the near future that manufacturers will have multiple head units available. We also, what we don't have in the picture is the central system. The central system, it's a hot water, it turns cold air or air from outdoors into hot water, and it just ties right into your hydronic system. So it's part of your central system, and you tie it in just like you would tie in thermal solar panels. So it's the same kind of installation. Okay, as far as the application and overview, the exciting thing about these is they are inverter driven. What that means, you've heard of ECM technology, right? Electrically commutated motors. And what's the great thing about them is they vary the speed to meet the need. So is think about it, we size up central heating systems for the coldest day of the year. Well, it's only the coldest day of the year, one day a year. The rest of the time, it's not that cold. And yet the system is all set for that coldest day, so it's too big. So what happens is the fan comes on, blows like crazy, then shuts off, and then comes back on, and your customer's hot and cold, hot and cold. Okay. And not very efficient, not very comfortable type of heating. So what we've done is come up with the ECM technology to slow the fan down or slow the circulator down and just pump in the heat into the system that's required depending on how cold it is outdoors. Well, these fans do the same thing. They're DC fans as well. You can vary infinitely variable speed fans. So as it gets colder, or I'm sorry, look at it this way because these are air conditioning as well. The bigger the delta T from indoor temperature and outdoor temperature, the harder the fan runs. The closer they are together, the slower the fan runs. Okay, and that's basically in either direction. With these things, with the air-to-air ones, they are just going to heat and cool the rooms that are hooked or adjacent to the room that the unit is hanging in. Okay, so you want to kind of think of them like a electric-powered pellet stove in the winter, but it's an electric-powered pellet stove that also cools your house too. Okay, so when you think about the installation, think about heating and cooling oases. Parts of the house where your customers spend most of their time, that's the part that this unit will take care of. And then the rest of the house would be warmer in the summer, colder in the winter, because they're not in that part of the house as much. The performance, at least 90-degree air delivered from the heat pump, up to a 25 SEER on one of these. Their coefficient performance as high as 2.4 at 25 degrees or 1.8 at 0. For those of you that aren't quite up to speed on coefficient performance, what that means is that for every 1 unit of energy that this thing uses, it gives you 1.8 units of energy back. So magic, okay, magic heat. And the other thing is these are very quiet, which is a gigantic advantage over the window air conditioners, which is really a big part of the target for this and the opportunity. And the great thing about window air conditioners is you can do your looking for leads from the street. You just drive down the street and everybody's got one of those things hanging in their window. Stop and give them a card because you can definitely do better for that. And that's what this technology is all about. Now, the people that will be eligible for their customers to receive rebates, who would be the eligible contractors? Okay, there's a few things you have to do. First thing you've already done, you showed up today. So as long as you stay till the end today, and you filled out that registration form, and I have up here, you get credit for today's program, and you're off to a great start. The second thing is you have to do the factory certified training for the cold climate heat pump that you plan to install. So if you want to put in the All-Therma, you have to go to the All-Therma training. If you want to put in the Mitsubishi, you have to go to the Mitsubishi training. If you want to do the Fujitsu, you have to go to the Fujitsu training. Okay? And they will give you proof that you were there, or you get listed on the website that you got that training. The next is you have to be a Vermont certified and or licensed technician or a BPI contractor. Now what we mean by licensed and or certified technician is licensed electrician, licensed plumber, certified oil guy, certified propane, okay? Or certified natural gas. You know, gas and solar, you can do this as well. Or you have to be a BPI certified contractor. So if you're any of those things, or more than one of those things, you can become a certified installer in this system, okay? You have to show us proof of general liability insurance. Okay, you have to be covered, so in case there's a problem. You have to follow all applicable electric codes related to the cold climate heat pump installation, which means that probably there's going to be a licensed electrician involved at some point. These things are 220, yeah, so it's not, there is some tricky part for the electric. You also have to have minimum Type 2 EPA refrigerated transition and recovery certification number. Okay, that's, I think it's a one-day course, but from Vermont Technical College, it will get you certified for that. And it's just basically handling refrigerant properly. Yeah, Ted.
What are the limits on the general liability insurance?
I think it was $1 million.
That sound good? Okay. Any question about whether or not you want to be you're going to be certified or can be certified? If you don't want to become certified, you can partner up with somebody who is, you know, and get the installations done that way. Other requirements are no-brainer. All the equipment must be installed per manufacturer's instructions. One of the most important things about getting a new technology developed in a market is that we don't screw any of the installations up. So we want to make sure that every one of these is done properly. That's why we want you to get the training and why we want you to follow instructions so that we get these things done, so we don't get any bad word of mouth going around. There's problems with these things. Okay, Jake, I'm going to turn it over to you to do the eligible equipment checklist. Or all of them.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming out this afternoon, stepping away from your busy lives. So what I'm going to be talking about here is the specific equipment that we're looking at being eligible for you to install. So I'm going to focus first off on the criteria we're using for ductless equipment, so the mini splits. We do have separate criteria for central systems, which I'll get into afterward. The first, you have to meet all 5 of these criteria, not just one, but all 5. And the first one that we're looking at is that the capacity of these units, we're looking at what the Mitsubishi units called hyperheat. You know, I think in the, I forget what Fujitsu calls theirs, but we're looking at units that are optimized for cold climates. So they actually have an output capacity that's 100% of that nominal nameplate capacity, all the way down to 5 degrees. So there's very, very few pieces of equipment that will actually do this. And as Bob said, there is no multi-head, multi-zone systems that we are aware of at this point that will do that one piece right there. At the same time that it's doing that, it's cranking out heat when the going gets rough and nice and Vermont cold. We also want to see a COP of greater than 1.75. So as Bob said, that's for 1 unit energy in, you got 1 3/4 units out. You can think of that as 175% efficiency, still down at 5 degrees. Electric resistance heat would be a straight COP of 1, just to give you a benchmark to work that up. So we're operating almost double of what electric resistance can do, all the way down at 5 degrees. And some of these units can actually do that 1 3/4 even down at -5 degrees. So, but we're looking for equipment that's going to at least hit this. The HSPF number, that's straight out of AHRI. That's the heating seasonal performance factor. It's kind of it's kind of like the, if you all are familiar with SEER for cooling, that's kind of the heating equivalent of SEER. It's BTUs per watt. So it's basically we're looking at 9 or above for this equipment. Not going to have a hard time finding that. Anything that meets these is going to meet that as well. And greater than 20 SEER on the cooling side, we have to take into account, I mean, even though this program is very oriented toward the heating side of things, we do have to take into account that we are expecting people are going to cool that might not have cooled before. We want to make sure that they're doing this cooling really efficiently. And again, some of the equipment we're looking at are mid-20s for SEER numbers, so it's really, really impressive. And at this point, there is no equipment that I'm aware of that actually, ductless equipment that provides electric resistance backup. But if somebody comes out with one tomorrow that meets all the rest of this criteria, but it's got electric resistance that kicks in at 10 degrees, it's out, doesn't count. Any questions on any of that? Question?
On your HSPF,
Sure.
Fujitsu has a small unit of 9,000 BTUs. It's only 8.8.
8.8, the H series unit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you won't cover that.
Nope. It's I'm in it with them because I think it has to do with this drain pan heater that they put in. They have an electric resistance coil in the drain pan, and it's killing their HSPF numbers. I mean, a lot of even the RLS2 series. I'm going to go into this. The predecessor series was up well over 10 in the 9,000 unit. So it's an issue. We can talk, but at this point, we had to draw the line somewhere, and that's where we do it.
I just wanted to clarify all of those numbers, the COP.
Sure.
You want it equal or greater, or greater?
Equal or greater.
Equal or greater.
Yeah. I don't know how to make the equal or greater than symbol on there. So if anybody can figure that out, let me know. Oh, you're going to give me computer advice, Ted? Come on. So just a couple of examples. I have to put this out there and be as clear as I can. We are not endorsing any particular equipment. We're not endorsing any particular distributors. But what we are trying to do is, instead of just throwing these numbers at you and then letting you try to all sort this out, we've done some of the sorting out for you. We've found some equipment that does meet this criteria. So we didn't set the criteria without looking at what equipment is out there. So on the Mitsubishi side of things, we're really talking about, at least for the M series, I haven't verified on the P series, the commercial grade stuff, all of these numbers. I know on the M series, and I will have that done by Monday. When we we are rolling this program out on Monday. So that was one thing we didn't mention yet. So it's the 15th, Monday is rollout date for this. So if you've got people lined up, send them to us pretty much right off. So as far as the M series goes, we're talking about the FE series, the MUZ FE, the 9, 12, and 18 unit, the Hyper E. Fujitsu, we're really talking primarily about the RLS2 series, and this gentleman mentioned they have a subset that they just recently released. It's the RLS2H series. They are supposed to be cold climate optimized, and they've got these measures in there to make sure that there's no freeze up in the drain pan, but they took a major hit on their HSPF numbers in order to do that. We can argue till the cows come home about how those numbers are arrived at in AHRI 210, 240, and whatever, but for the purposes of the program, we are only going to be looking at units that are HSPF of 9 and above, which even with the H series includes the 12 and the 15, just not the 9. Mark?
You're moving on from Mitsubishi, but if you're listing off who the suppliers are,
yep.
You should probably want to cover all 3 of the suppliers.
Would you like to bring that up?
Well, other.
Yeah, I would like to.
Sure, please.
Homans Associates.
Homans, absolutely. We did mention a couple of, we mentioned Blodgett's here, we mentioned Granite Group before.
Simon's.
Bell Simon's also on
yeah.
Mitsubishi.
Yep, and absolutely, like I said earlier, the only reason we put these in is for just an indication. If you're looking for where do I go out to get this, these are some examples. We didn't get an exhaustive list. Thank you for bringing that up, I appreciate it. And there's no reason not to use, all of these guys are great, work with them. Thank you. So on the central side of things, at this point, the only system that we have verified for the central systems is the Daikin's Altherma. Is anybody here familiar with the Altherma? Bruce, you don't count. Have you put any in, or?
I haven't put any in yet.
You've seen them? Essentially, they have the similar kind of outdoor unit that the ductless system has, but then when you get into the house, you're tying in, you're doing an exchange to water. So there's I think they call it the hydro box, right? The hydro box, so you're exchanging to water, and then from there you can run in, you know, you can do a hydro air for an air-based system. You can run right into a hydronic system. So it's basically a fully distributed central system. So they're really interesting products. Bruce represents
Green Thermal Systems. We're a distributor and technical support, and can get training and so on the L-thermos.
So if anybody's interested in this product, please talk to Bruce afterward. But in general, I've been told there may be some other equipment. The Carrier Greenspeed, I haven't verified that one yet, but what we're looking for here, these numbers look different. And it is a little bit, it does throw things off. It makes it look like we're asking for less, but it really has to do with just the difference in the way these things are rated. So in this particular case, we're looking for a maximum heating capacity of 50% or greater at 5 degrees. We're also looking at it's the same COP of 1.75 or greater at 5 degrees, and a cooling efficiency for the system of 13 or greater. And I mentioned Altherma. You can talk to Bruce. I also know, I believe that Webb carries them, and I'm not sure who else. There are probably maybe some other, FIA, other distributor. So, in addition to the equipment eligibility, we also, these are only going to go in certain kinds of buildings. So this is going to be something that you guys are going to have to sort of do some pre-screening on. You can't just sell this to any customer that's in CBPS territory who wants a ductless mini split that meets your criteria. It has to be a particular type of building. And so the way we've defined these buildings is, one of the first lines in the sand we drew is we decided that we're not going to be working with new construction, only existing homes. These things work great in new buildings. Highly encourage you to put them in, but we are not going to incentivize that. This is a fossil fuel displacement program. So we're looking at reducing fossil fuel use in existing homes only for this particular program.
Yes, sir.
Question?
I'm in a meeting right now. Can you give me a call back?
Sorry? No. The home also, as I said, it's a fossil fuel displacement program, so the home has to be heated primarily by oil, Caro, or propane. So that doesn't mean there can't be some, wood stove in the house. It doesn't mean there can't be some electric resistance in the house. It means that the primary fuel for the home has to be oil, Caro, or propane. And the way that we're kind of deciding whether it represents primary is that rather than having to do a detailed analysis of greater than 50%, we're just saying it's got to be at least 300 gallons of oil or Caro or 450 gallons of propane. So, or of course, if you got a house that's really super efficient, it uses, the only fuel it uses is one of these, but it's not using that much. I doubt you're going to see too many of those, but if you do, and it's 100%, then that's good enough. It doesn't have to use that much. Is that clear? I feel like I said that very clear. So in order to prove all that, we're going to require the couple of years of fuel records, fuel deliveries. And we're going to ask you to talk to your customers about sending that information to us. Well, we're going to talk to them about that as well, but just let them know that that's something they're going to have to provide.
Why not natural gas?
Ah, good question. Thank you for bringing that up. So we have sort of paired this up against natural gas, and basically from a cost effectiveness standpoint, there's a lot of customers in natural gas area that would love to put these things in primarily for cooling. From the heating standpoint, I'm not trying to talk you out of doing it, but our internal sort of screening process showed that it hurt the program as a whole, and we decided that we weren't going to cover that for this program. Doesn't mean we won't do it in the future as part of other programs, but for this particular rollout, we decided that we weren't going to go there.
Now, who's actually paying out the rebates? Is it Efficiency Vermont?
It's coming through, we're processing it all, but this is all funded by Green Mountain Power. So
Now, how come some of the other electrical companies out there can't do this, like Stowe Electric or?
Yep. So this particular chunk of money actually became available through the merger between CVPS and Green Mountain Power. There's a whole lot of history there. You all probably heard about the $21 million maybe that was floating around, trying to figure out what to do with it. Basically, this is a way to pay back the customers that used to be CVPS, who had essentially gotten higher rates, paid higher rates with the hopes of getting some return on that. And this is it coming back. It's coming back through these programs.
So out of the 21 million, what is your budget for this whole program?
I believe the whole program budget was 300,000, and that's everything in. That's all of the metering, monitoring that we're doing. That's these trainings. That's the incentives, the development of the program, all that stuff. We don't know exactly how much money is going to be. We're trying to minimize all of that overhead to make it the absolute the highest level that we can for incentives, but we're not quite sure what that is yet.
Just one comment, based on the 300,000, it looks like you have overhead that's 3 times what your rebates are.
Well, like we said, the goals for incentives that's a minimum. We're hoping that's going to be significantly higher than that. So, yeah.
So, when we look at our colored maps here,
Yep.
Chittenden County is pretty much not included, is that correct?
It's,
Green.
it's a messy. So you're looking at the orange. Is basically everything that's orange on there is former CVPS territory.
So all the green and the blue.
Green and blue are not. Nope. So this is primarily the southern half of the state. It is. We didn't draw the lines. The lines were, where the CVPS used to be. So those are the only customers that we can pay.
I can't read the small writing.
So there is a better map. That map, I believe, was printed off the GMP seed website. Yeah. So if you go to if you just type in GMP seed, CED, you'll get a whole lot more information about the seed programs, and there's a map on there that you can actually read. I think the purpose of this map was just to sort of give people a general indication of kind of what we were talking about in terms of area. And I do want to point out, it does not neatly follow town lines. You can literally be within one town and have one side of the street on one service and one on the other. So, of course, it's all GMP now, or most of it's GMP now. But
most of it is not Chittenden County. If you look at Colchester, a small portion of Essex and
I think there's some Essex, there's a few little bits and pieces in there. So.
On your managed bus systems, it says here 750 for the single and 500 for the second.
We're getting there.
No, is that the maximum you're talking about? Is $7, so I'm saying is just 2? That's the maximum amount.
Yep, we're getting there.
Did I cover everything?
So the other piece to this, in addition to what I just said about the home needing to be essentially heated with Caro oil or propane, the other thing is that we're being mandated to only put these into homes that are pretty efficient, okay? And these are sort of 5 separate criteria that we're using to determine that the house is pretty efficient. House or business, excuse me. This is also for small businesses. So you do not have to meet all 5 of these criteria. You only have to find one, all right? You have to find one. So we're thinking that the number 1 is probably going to be the most common that we're expecting to see. Bob started this conversation by saying a big piece of this is to help form partnerships, get people working together who haven't worked together in the past. My guess is that a good number of you have no idea what a home performance with Energy Star project is. Me, a couple of you I know do because you do them, but other than you guys. So home performance with Energy Star, which is what this is referring to, this first bullet, is a program that's run through Efficiency Vermont. It's a home energy retrofit program. So it does include heating systems. It includes everything to do with energy in a home, but it is primarily focused on the building shell. So we're looking at insulation and air sealing work, okay? And it's a comprehensive program, so basically what we're saying is somebody that either has to be going through this at the same time that the heat pump's being installed, or it has to have been done at some point in the past, has to have been through the program. It has to have been done pretty comprehensively. So we're talking about a good project that hit at least a 25% reduction in fuel use after that project was done, or is projected to do that. There's a couple of guys, who are, BPI contractors want to raise your, so the guys that do the home performance, we got Ted, Jim, Nick sort of, associated with a group that does them. These guys, you can talk to them. If you actually go into a house that you think, oh, this is the perfect place to do a heat pump, but they're not a very efficient house. If you can partner up with these guys and get the homeowner to do both of these things, they're gonna get some real bang for their buck. So, like we said, a big part of this is beginning to form these partnerships. So you guys know who each other are, begin to work together. But we're not requiring that. We're not saying you have to do that. There are other options. For example, if the home is either going through now or has been through the low-income weatherization, very similar kind of program, but for low-income folks, that's fine. We have an energy code here in Vermont, the Residential Building Energy Standard. If a home was built probably in the last 8 years or so and was built to code and they have an actual certificate, the RB's certificate, that's good enough for us. This HERS index, that has to do with the home energy rating score. That's the Energy Star for Homes program through the EPA. It's a national program, and you'll have to ask your customers. You're not going to know just by looking at the house, but if you have this list, which you now do in your program overview guide, you can ask them, they'll know. If they went through that process, it's a pretty exhaustive process. The final one, if they haven't been through any sort of program, but they've done a lot of work on their house, or it's built pretty recently, and it seems to you a pretty efficient house, we've got a calculation that we're running that says if that house uses 30,000 BTUs in consumption, shell load per year, then basically that house we deem pretty darn efficient. And to give you a sense of, we're not asking you to calculate that. We're going to calculate that based on some basic information that the customer comes to us with. This is just an idea of the type of homes we're talking about. We're talking about, a 2,000 square foot fuel oil heated house that's 85% efficient, 4 people living in there. The domestic hot water is not running off the boiler. We're looking at 500 gallons of fuel oil or less. So, relatively good. You guys have seen homes like that, not a ton maybe, but they're out there. Same home with an indirect tank off of the boiler. We're talking under 750 gallons with screen for that. So pretty efficient houses. Any questions on that one?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense of the market, of what percentage of the homes in this part of CBPS territory will meet those criteria?
No idea.
One.
Well, like we said, originally, when this was originally drafted, the requirement was you have to have a home performance with Energy Star project if you're going to put one of these in. And so we added some of these other sort of criteria to back off a little bit and say, all right, we're really going to make everybody go through this? What if their house is already pretty good? So I understand there might be a little bit of frustration on this, but the reason behind it is that we've spent a lot of years and a lot of work getting as much load off of the electric grid as we can. I mean, that's been essentially efficiency Vermont was created in order to get as much electricity off of the grid. And now we're trying to talk them into letting us put a whole bunch, to fund putting a whole bunch more electricity back on the grid. And it does make sense because these things are so efficient, but just because they're efficient doesn't mean that a big old leaky farmhouse isn't going to just dump massive amounts of electricity onto the grid. And that's what we're looking to avoid.
I hear you. I hear you.
Do you
And
use
my,
the
I'm sorry. my problem is that I feel like we've created a lot of obstacles to the sale.
I agree.
This map is an incredible obstacle.
Yeah. For this area.
Let me
it is.
check, man, because I'm not sure which side of the street you live on. I'll get my GPS out. And then, you know, I want to walk in and close the deal.
Yep.
And I'm gonna try to install, you know, 4 of these next week. I mean, I'm just kidding, but
Yep.
it's like what is it that you want to accomplish with this? If you want to,
So the map was not a choice. That was not a choice. We had no option there.
Well,
That's what this entire thing.
it's
is
just my
payback
feedback.
goes
We're just layering on obstacles.
And you're not going to believe me when I tell you that our mantra throughout this entire process was, how can we keep this as simple as we possibly can? Like I said, I told you wouldn't believe me, but that really was throughout the entire process.
On the other hand, if you go into a house and look at it to figure out what sort of renovations, energy improvements, or heating systems make sense,
Yep.
and sell them on that basis alone, and then you find out that the house may meet some of these criteria, it's, oh, by the way, we may be able to get you an extra $500, $700, whatever it is.
Yep.
So rather than going out looking for houses that meet the criteria, you know, the exacting criteria for this program,
Yep.
look for houses where, you know, the heat pumps make sense, and then see this as an added incentive to close it.
Right, that's the idea, you know, that this is supposed to be a good enough idea that it doesn't need a rebate to sell it. You know, the rebate's gravy, so I think that is the attitude I think that's going to be successful for this direction.
Question?
Are you going to advertise this program to the consumer?
You know, that's another good question. Originally, we had anticipated, absolutely, we're going to hit this hard, we're going to do it, and then we realized, what are we talking about? We're talking about, you know, 50, 75, maybe 100 of these units. You know, there's enough people in this room right here who probably have identified, could have half of those done in the next couple of weeks. We already have, I think it was 41 contractors signed up from
46.
46.
46 contractors already signed up for this
Right.
program.
So, do we need to do that for this program? Probably not. So we decided that instead of spending money, because that is not free, right? We could blow a lot of money on advertising, or we could keep that, as much of that for incentives as possible.
My fear here is that if you did advertise, or us as smaller companies advertise, you know, that you can possibly get a rebate, and then we go in and all of a sudden they've got to jump through these 5, 6 hurdles, and we come out with nothing for them, or it costs them more to go through this program than the rebate saves them. Who looks bad?
That should definitely not be the case. There's really very few hurdles. There's some basic eligibility criteria. Most of this is, you know, the stuff that we set up for you guys in terms of like what makes you eligible. Most of you have already done it. You can fill the form out and be eligible and on the website tomorrow. As far as the equipment goes, yeah, it's limited, but we're trying to push the market in a certain direction. So it is limited, but we're going to have a list of equipment that you can look up, and chances are, I asked, you know, as people started filtering in here, what equipment are you guys putting in already? And I think this isn't a huge change from what a lot of people are doing. I know it's not a huge change from what Mark Stevenson's been doing. I've been looking at a bunch of his installs. It's the same equipment. So a lot of the people are already doing this. As far as like what the homeowner's going to have to jump through, they're going to have to send us some fuel records. They're going to have to show us that they got an efficient house.
Which is an expense to them if they haven't gone through any of these programs yet.
If they haven't gone through the programs, the idea is to motivate them to do that.
Can I just add a little to that, Jay?
Sure.
I mean, what this conversation makes me think about is, I'd like to see everybody in Vermont that's got a place to put these units, put them in, because they save the customer a ton of money. It's just a really good unit.
Hey, you're talking $1 a day.
So, yeah, this is unbelievably economic. My house, I'm saving literally thousands of dollars a year. I couldn't be happier. I've had them in since 2008. So this program, though, is not focused on heat pumps per se. It's focused on getting that money back to former CVPS customers because of that windfall profit from the merger. So This thing is very limited, and it has to be wrapped up in efficiency. Usually when the Public Service Board approves something and they say nothing, we just go with it. If they tell us something, which they usually don't, we pay really close attention to it. And what they told us here was, make sure you package this with efficiency programs. Now, having said that, this program only covers 50 mini splits and 10 central units. Let's go out and sell these other customers outside this program. It doesn't have to be within this program, and I agree with Bob. The economics are so good, I'm not so sure a lot of people really need an incentive to make this decision. So having said that, I'm working really hard at Green Mountain Power to have a company-wide rental program for people that can't afford to buy them. I'm trying to figure out a way for us to rent them like we rent the water heaters. And beyond that, I'd like to work with all of you and all of our customers and get a broader program going with some joint marketing. Not that Green Mountain Power would have an interest in the units per se, but it's so good for our customers. I can't resist helping you guys market these units. So this is just a starter program, tiny little starter program that got motivated by the merger. We don't have to be limited to this program. Let's go sell them to everybody.
How about getting them into the PACE program? I don't think they're covered by PACE today, are they?
I think you're right.
PACE is not up and running yet. They will be covered by PACE.
They will be?
Yep. So unfortunately, my guess is that this program and PACE are going to kind of miss each other a little bit, unfortunately, but it will make a big difference, I think, for you guys installing these to have an additional financing mechanism.
So when will PACE be up and running?
The first ones in the country that are going to actually probably get it rolling. So we're going to be first. I don't know when that's going to be, but we're still going to be first.
What we're excited about with this program is that we're going to get the data, the information about what can be saved, so that when PACE or another electric utility decides to rebate, or anybody does anything else, we're going to have the numbers, so then you can use it as a sales tool and go out and say, so we're sure you're going to save money. We're going to say, look, these Vermonters, these 50 Vermonters save this much fuel. I mean, it won't be any vague numbers. It will be real hard numbers. So that's going to be the great thing about this. The end result of this program is going to be that information. So, we had a couple of people come in. Did anybody not fill in a registration form yet? Just one. Okay, great. If you can get that, pass that time. And another important form, if you want to be regarded as a certified installer, if you want to be in the program, you have to fill out one of these applications and get it to Efficiency Vermont, the address on the bottom of the form.
You can either hand it to me if you know all the information today, or just mail it in.
Just mail it in. Now, I think we have enough here. If we don't, if those of you that are several of you from one company, if you could just take one, for the company, because you only need one application for your company. You don't need one for each person that's going to be an installer. Okay. Okay. For those of you that haven't put these in already, there's a couple of things you want to think about with these to keep you out of trouble and keep you from getting callbacks. For those of you who have already installed them, please correct me if I say something wrong. Okay. But as we said, especially with the ductless, these are a convective flow heating system. So the hot air is going to come out of the unit, it's going to drift over to the other side of the room, it's going to cool off, fall back to the floor, and get sucked. The cold air is going to get sucked back into the bottom. So we're going to have this kind of flow. So obviously this is going to heat the room that the unit's in really well and cool that room. The rooms next door, maybe, maybe not. So there's a little bit of Kentucky windage in this whole thing, and there's going to be an important component is going to be how the customers use the system. Okay, and as you know, if the customer doesn't know how to use the system and they do it wrong, they're going to call you in the middle of the night and complain about it. Okay, so to avoid callbacks, we want to put some thought into how we do it up front. So. We want to think about this, think about how it's going to heat it. The old story with a wood stove, if you can't see it, it's not going to heat you. That's not quite true with these because they do get the convective flow, which will get around the rooms. It's not radiant heat, that the wood stove depends on. But this is definitely an issue you have to worry about, is if you have single zone hydronic heat. Okay, single zone hydronic heat, as you know, all the heat goes through every terminal unit and works its way around the house. And we can have a split zone where the heat goes this way, but here again, one thermostat, one circulator. Okay. Now clearly, if we have, what we're saying is you heat the rooms that they use the most. So here we have the kitchen, dining room, family room. So we probably want to have the ductless heat pump in this area here. If the thermostat is also in this area here, we're going to have a problem back here. This bedroom is going to get cold, and again, when it's really cold, these pipes are going to freeze up. And what we definitely do not want is one of those Dr. Zhivago houses. Did you ever see that movie, Dr. Zhivago? And they walked into the frozen house with all the ice coming out of the walls. You ever seen one of them? How many have you seen a Dr. Zhivago house? $10,000 minimum, right? To fix a Dr. Zhivago house. We don't want any Dr. Zhivago houses in this program. So what you're going to have to do in this system is relocate the thermostat. Okay, it's going to be a very important thing to think about. Then the next step is there's flappers on the baseboard. You know, those flapper things? You can move those flappers. They're not like the label on your mattress that you can't remove. You're actually allowed to move them. I mean, you won't get arrested, really. And what we want to do is close the flappers on all of the baseboard in what we call the effective zone. That's the zone, the part of the house that's going to be affected by the heat pump. So you want to close off all those flappers, leave all these flappers open, move the thermostat into this part of the house. Okay. Obviously, another system you're going to have trouble with is steam. Most of the residential steam in Vermont is what we call one-pipe steam. That's just one pipe going to the radiators. Okay, there's two-pipe steam, which you might actually be able to play around with a little bit. But one-pipe steam is going to be tricky for this system. Here again, we have to think about where the thermostat is. You'll probably have to move the thermostat into the part of the house that is not within the effective zone. Now the trick is, how do you close off radiators in a steam system? Do not ever touch this valve. Okay, you touch this valve, first it'll break. Second thing it'll do is leak. And the third thing it'll do is you can close it off tight enough that it won't allow, it'll stop water from coming out of the radiator. But you can never close that old valve tight enough to stop steam from going in. So you know what's going to happen. Steam's going to go in, it's going to condense, the radiator's going to fill up with water, and rusty water will blow out of this valve onto this very expensive Oriental carpet that's always right there. Okay, that's what's going to happen. So the only way you can do steam systems is you're going to have to figure, as part of the price, putting in adjustable air valves on all the radiators. And some steam guys get twitchy when I say this, but we're going to have to slow down or close off the air valves in the effective zone and open up the air valves in the other parts of the house, and as I said, relocate the thermostat. What will happen is, when you do that, when you close the air valve, the first one or two sections of the radiator will still get hot, but the whole thing won't get hot. So you'll effectively push the steam onto the parts of the house that aren't.
When you start limiting these systems, like the steam system, you're gonna start heating that water too fast. You have banging pipes.
It's going to get funky. You may want to underfire the boiler too.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with your hot water boiler.
Yeah.
Now you got a boiler this size down here, and you're using half the boiler for, you got all this baseboard that the heat's running through, and you're using half the boiler.
Exactly. So
And if you get to a hot air system, it's going to be even worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't start closing off registers.
Right. You're going to.
You've got to get the heat out of the unit, or else
So
it's like having a plug filter. I mean, you just can't close them registers.
You have to underfire the unit. Is probably the trick. So this is not a no-brainer. You're absolutely right. This is something you want to really think about.
This equipment out there, you just can't downfire this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah. Mark?
The reality is you're not going to get in there and start monkeying with the existing heating system. As a contractor, I doubt people are going to do that.
Yeah.
You're going to come into somebody's house, and this is like putting a wood stove in.
Yeah.
You're going to provide 75 or 85% of their load. When it gets cold enough, they're going to turn the central heating system. They're going to turn the old coal plant on.
Right.
But you're not. I mean, if they have 2 or 3 zones, great. But you can't start fiddling with an air system, whatever. It's like putting a wood stove in, or a monitor, or a that people used to put in to get rid of their electric heat.
Yeah, probably. The one thing you definitely want to do is think about moving that.
You're not providing 100% of their heat.
Because this is what you're looking for. Obviously, if it's a multi-zone system.
Yeah, but then you're gonna overheat the room if the thermostat's not. If you get that on, and this room's cold, and you get the thermostat in the bedroom running, I mean, I know you're closing the flappers, but, I mean, with a hot air system, you, like I say, you can't close the register,
No.
now you're gonna overheat.
No, hot air system, yeah, I was talking about
It's gonna crack the heat
the
exchanger
single
after a
loop
while.
zone.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably doing,
It's gonna be a little funky, right? You know, I mean, this is kind of a concern. So ideally, this is the kind of system you're looking for. Multi-zone, where the effective zone also is a heating zone. You know, where they line up pretty nicely. That's gonna be the ideal situation for this installation. Is either zone valves or circulators, but multi-zone, multi-thermostat.
Not to brush off what you're saying, I think what you're saying is correct, and I think, Mark, you're more or less agreeing that you probably don't want to mess with this, but one of the things you can do, I think it's important to remember, is you can put in more than just one sort of effective zone, right? So you can put in multiple of these. If it's a ductless system, you can put in multiple. If you're talking about this Altherma central system, all these things go away. Because you're feeding right into, you're feeding right into it. If you're talking about the ductless systems that we're referring to, you can actually pinpoint a few different locations around the house where that central system doesn't need to come on at all until it gets cold.
if it's zoned.
Yeah.
Even in single zone systems, it's not ideal, but I've seen single zone systems work if you have enough of these units throughout the house. It can be done.
But, you know,
Yeah, but then if you put enough of these mini splits in, I mean, you're gonna have compressors outside of every room. I mean,
Again, if you're trying to heat every single room
Well, that's
within a
essentially
couple
what you just
degrees
said, right?
of each other, well, no, I'm saying a couple of key areas throughout the house, you open doors, and I've seen a lot of these houses that have 2 or 3 units in them. Yes, they have 2 or 3 compressors outside, which customers are not going to want.
we're talking
But-
mansions at this point. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, we're talking about reasonable 2,000 square foot house with 2 or 3 units where the central heating system doesn't come on until it gets down to 0 degrees. We're talking about saving 80% of your fuel oil costs.
But if you mentioned the Dr. Zhivago house, but if you start heating too much with these ductless units, and you have a hot water baseboard system there, and that's just sitting idle, it's gonna freeze. I mean, that's just, we go through it all winter.
Yeah.
I mean, people use wood stove space heaters, we go through this all winter long.
Right.
So when you start doing that and you have a baseboard system, I mean, you're gonna create some problems.
Yeah. You're right. I mean,
Very careful about that.
You're exactly right. We're gonna have the same problems that you have with wood stoves and pellet stoves you're gonna have with these. Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, but, you know, so those are some things strategies you can do to minimize the problems, but there's gonna be issues. You know.
But that adds expense to the project too.
Right.
And I think
So it's not for everybody.
Right.
These are not for everybody.
I think that's kind of the message that's coming through here, right? Is we're not trying to stand up here and try to sell you guys on the fact that here's a magical solution for every single house. We're saying there are some things that you need to look out for that are going to make not very good options. Nothing to do with our program. This is just recommendation from us saying there are installations that are a bad idea. Those are out there. You know, there are other options for people. So
The other, you know, to talk about the central system for a minute, the only serious limitation on that is the output temperature for the central system is 135 degrees. Well, as you know, baseboard is based on, you know, 500 BTUs per foot at 160 or 170 degrees. So when we go down to 135, the output from your baseboard is going to go down. The other issue is if your return water drops below about 140, you're going to get condensing. Now, if you have a condensing boiler, that's wonderful. These systems are fantastic because they make condensing boilers condense. If you have a non-condensing boiler, it's going to start condensing, and that's a bad thing. You'll have to get reverse actiangostat, and if you put that in, then the system won't work because, you know, it becomes sort of a catch-22. So you do have to think about what the systems that are perfect for the central would be hydro air. That would, you know, old central warm air systems with a air handler, and radiant heat, and then radiant with a air handler and air conditioning separate. So those are the kind of houses you want to look for the central system. Bruce, did I do that pretty well cover it?
Well, really, the central heating, Altherma is a whole house system, and it can be applied to any of those. It can be applied to a forced air system for heating and cooling, and can take on most of the load there. The rest can be handled by an existing oil-fired furnace or an electric strip or whatever. With radiant, obviously, it works very well with the temperature being lower in general for radiant. With hydronic systems, it really depends on how much baseboard is in the house and how much heat load there really is, based on perhaps shell upgrades and so on. There may be more baseboard than is really needed to be run at that high temperature. There are also tricks we've looked into in terms of being able to put higher efficiency elements inside existing baseboard housings at a relatively cost-effective upgrade. But the main thing is the controls are integrated. It is running from whatever the central system is, using whatever distribution is there, or you can add some distribution if you want to in particular areas. And it also, by the way, handles the domestic hot water load in an efficient manner as well.
Now, to make that work, they have a fairly sophisticated control system that integrates the two systems, you know, the heat pump and the central system. With the air-to-air systems, it depends on the customer coordinating it. And so Mitsubishi has come up with an integrated system control as well. These are pretty new technology, and basically it ties in to the thermostat for the central system, and it's pretty much a 4-degree setback. Jake, you want to share up to these a little bit?
Yeah, so I'm not really sure about other manufacturers. They may all have a version of this, but I know that Mitsubishi has come up with a controller that's specifically designed to deal with the fact that we've got some complications of, well, if you've got an existing system and you've got its thermostat, now you put this new thing in and it's got its own thermostat, and you end up with the two thermostats going back and forth with each other. And depending on how the homeowner uses it, it could be a complete disaster and the heat pump might never run. So basically what this does is it brings it all into one central control. So you've got one thermostat, and essentially what it does is it makes the heat pump the primary heat, and then gives a 4-degree setback to the central system. So if you guys are interested in doing this, it is sort of a new thing. It's a little bit of you're stepping out a little bit. I know people get apprehensive about going into new fields here, but it does work, and we've got 5 free ones. So if you're interested in trying some of these out, let me know, and we'll get one of these things to you for free. And then there is an additional incentive for your customer to essentially pay for your equipment too. So it's kind of a no-cost option to help integrate. Where are we at here?
Okay. One of the, as we said, one of the great opportunities here is going to be air conditioning, and it's going to be to replace these things, the window air conditioner units. So we're get rid of these guys. It's going to save a customer a lot of money. This is a lot better way to cool, and then you're doing a little bit of the heating too. So that would be maybe a way to sell this to customers, is to get rid of all their window units. Another great opportunity for this is to pair it up with solar PV. Any solar installers around? Okay. So you want to talk to these guys, because this makes this really make sense. This is where we go to the zero carbon footprint. So if you have a customer that's really serious about that, wants to go to zero carbon footprint, this is the perfect system to do that, because we're doing both air conditioning and heating with solar, and it's relatively easy to retrofit into an existing house versus trying to put ducts and all that other stuff into existing houses. So I encourage you to really think hard about this. When the Public Service Board approved this program, they said don't add to the electrical load, and they're really worried that we were going to start actually bringing more heat on and cooling onto the electric system. And we figured it out that I think we cranked the numbers, and according to our calculations, if we got 7 of these 60 programs to be solar, that would save enough to zero out the whole rest of the program if none of the rest of the program replaced any window air conditioner units at all. So all we need is 7 of them, guys. So get that done for us, okay? Those of you, solar contractors, you might want to talk to the people who raise their hand afterward and get them involved with this. Okay. Now, as you said, the customer is going to have to be involved with this. Okay. We have put together, if Jake's going to pass that out, we got a nice little 4-color piece that we're encouraging you to hand these to the customer when you're done. These are available as PDFs. We can email them to you, and you can print them out. We can print them for you if you want. But basically, there's some things that people have to do to make sure they get the maximum benefit from the heat pump, and it does what you're going to promise them that it's going to do. And the first most important thing is the system setting. They have heat, cool, and auto. And customers tend, generally people put these things on auto and just set it and forget it. That is a mistake. Okay, you want to put it on heat in the heating season and cool in the cooling season. Because what will happen if you put it in auto, let's say that an ideal situation for this would be one of those big great rooms with the cathedral ceiling and the big windows, facing south. Okay, and put the heat pump in there and take care of that big stupid room, that's usually pretty hard to heat anyway. And what will happen is it's cool in the morning because it has all those windows. The heat pump comes on to make heat. Then suddenly the sun comes up, comes in the windows, and just as the heat pump's making heat, you get all that solar gain. The heat overrides, and the heat pump switches over and starts cooling. Okay, and this is in the middle of the winter when it's 20 degrees outside and the air conditioning's running. And the heat pump just starts chasing its tail, if it's on auto. So what you want to do in the winter is just put it on heat and forget it. And then in the summer, when you want it to do air conditioning, put it on cool and forget it. Don't use the auto setting for the system setting. However, on the fan setting, you definitely want to put it on auto, because auto will enable the ECM. It'll lower the inverter-driven, variable speed motor fan, which is what we want. That's one of the big advantages, variable speed fan. Okay, so I'll get you in a second, John. So just so you're clear, the system setting, heat or cool, the fan setting, auto. Yeah, John.
Is this an issue with the integrated controllers or not?
Yes, I think it is. There's no setting on it.
It's not an issue with the Altherma.
Okay. Not the Altherma, this is just the ductless. The Altherma, that's all handled in the...
Yeah, so the integrated controller that I showed earlier is specifically designed to work with a remote thermostat. So most of these units, they all, as far as I know, all the ductless units come with the remote control. And that's where a lot of that's how most people are going to end up using these things, and where they get all their settings is right on there. If they've got a remote thermostat in another room, maybe even in another room, it's going to be less of a problem. But we still think that using the heat for heat and cool for cool makes sense. We've just heard quite a bit feedback from customers that these things have sort of gotten into this loop where they're burning through energy unnecessarily cooling during the heating season and vice versa. So I sort of avoided your question because I don't really know the answer, to be honest with you, but generally speaking, whatever they're using is going to be a good idea.
Next thing is, of course, what we tell them when any heating system, don't get hung up on the degrees on the thermostat dial. Okay, 70, I'm sure you've all had customers call up and they've used their thermometer and said, my thermostat isn't accurate, because it says 71 and it's 70 here, or whatever. So you want to tell the customers up front, look, just set it where you're comfortable. Don't get worried about what the numbers are. Just remember where you were comfortable and leave it there and don't worry about it. And these are also work better if you don't get thermostat wars going in the house. Now, of course, every house has thermostat wars because no two human beings are comfortable at the same temperature. And so, one of you is either going to be, is a person that's usually cold, and you're going to be constantly cranking the thermostat up, and one of you probably has maybe a higher metabolism, you're always warm, you're going to be cranking the thermostat down. And, that happens in every marriage, every family. But that's burning energy no matter what kind of heating system you have, and it's definitely going to make these things unhappy. They really say just set it and forget it. Don't go playing with it. The only time you want to set it back is if you're leaving the house or you're all going to bed and you're going to be tucked in under the covers. Then you can turn it down at night and turn it down. Yeah. But other than that, just set it and forget it. The effective zone. The effective zone is the zone, the part of the house heated by or cooled by the heat pump. And what you want to do is try and make that as large as possible by opening as many doors as you can. You know, these things do not go through doors. If you have a surly teenager that keeps their door closed and says keep out, big signs all over the door, that room ain't going to get heated. That kid's going to be cold. Okay. Bathrooms, if the bathroom door is always closed, the bathroom's going to be cold. You know, so you have to kind of think about these kind of things and how you can open and close doors to make the house work. Okay. There's also a defrost function on these. They will ice up in the winter, the coil outside, and they will periodically, they shut off and heat the coil and melt the ice off the coil. And the unit doesn't run when it's doing that. Well, the customer may get all upset and say, oh gee, I need the heat, it's cold outside, and they can override the defrost function. And as soon as, of course, you do that a few times, and then the thing is one big ball of ice, and it doesn't work anymore. So tell your customers, please, just once in a while, it's going to stop. It's okay. It's supposed to do that. And there's supposed to be a little puddle of water outside underneath it when it does that.
We found we need to put them up on something.
Yes, you definitely have to rise them up.
Built right up.
They have to be above snow line.
Yeah, we've had customers who actually put them on pads and they'll drill a big hole in it. Make it like really drain.
Yeah. You have to, I'm glad, you definitely have to get them up above snow line. I think we're saying 12.
Well, I mean, just up, even above the, not just for the snow line, the condensation that actually built an icicle up.
Yeah.
It'll get up into the fan.
Yeah. So you definitely want to get these things. They do have brackets you can hang them on the house, or you can also buy the stand that you can put them on.
The installation manual says if you're gonna use them in heating mode, they need to be mounted off the ground. So if
Yeah.
you read the installation.
Oh, yeah,
it'll tell you.
absolutely. Okay. Basically, you want to tell your customer, let the heat pump do the work. Okay, we want to use it as the primary zone. Okay, to maximize the effectiveness, maximize the payback. Then you use the areas outside the effective zone as the backup. And what we recommend is you set the thermostat in those outside zones about 10 degrees cooler than they would normally. So let's say normally they kept the thermostats at 70 before the heat pump, set them to 60. See how it works. If you can set it a little lower, great. Then they recommend going down as far as 15 degrees difference if they are comfortable. If they find that's not working for them because of all the things we talked about, whatever the configuration of the current system, maybe 8 degrees, maybe it's only 5 degrees. It depends, it's up to the customer to be comfortable. Because if they're not comfortable, this isn't going to work. Okay. So each house is going to be a little bit different, and there's going to be some fiddling around here. Okay. Also, in severe weather, as I said, they work down to 5 degrees, but you start getting below 5 degrees, their performance starts falling off pretty fast. So in extreme cold, the central system is going to have to kick in and do all the work, which is really nasty for the central system that we've asked to be loafing all this time, and now all of a sudden it's got to be a superstar. Yeah, so there are all the issues you talked about with that. But what we'll have to do, there's a couple of tricks. One is to start turning up the thermostats in the outside zones and to start making the effective zone smaller by closing all the doors that you opened before. And at some point, you just got to turn up the zone, the effective zone, turn on the heat in that zone too. Then remember, of course, as soon as it warms up, to go back and reverse everything you just did. And including the flappers on the baseboard and all the other tricks you may have done. As far as maintenance, it's simple. There's very little maintenance the customer has to do. They just basically keep the filters clean. And cleaning the filters is about as tricky as cleaning the lint trap on your clothes dryer. That's about how, the level of sophistication required to do this. And here again, just like with any central system filter, the more you clean it, the cleaner your house is going to be. The less you clean it, the less effective the system's going to be, the more it's going to short cycle, the less happy it's going to be. So, definitely encourage them to, certainly a couple times a season, to clean those filters. You also want to tell them about sounds. These things are going to make funny little noises. The fan is very quiet, which means that they're actually going to hear the other funny little noises more acutely than they may have on an old window air conditioner that's blasting away like a 747. You know, the fan is quiet, but there's a noise involved with the fan. And as it gets colder, the fan runs harder, or in the summer, as it gets hotter, the fan's going to run harder. So you have to tell the customer the fan noise will vary depending on the temperature difference between indoors and outdoors. There's also going to be whirring noises, clicking noises, and the sound of rushing fluid. And, you know, what I would recommend when you quote these jobs, figure another at least 2 hours for customer education. You know, sort of 1 hour when you're finished with the job, when you activate the system, you want to do it with them watching. And get the system going and talk them through it then. And make the funny noises and tell them, okay, that noise is this noise is that, that's all okay, this is what it's supposed to do. So that they know, because otherwise they're going to call you at night. And you're going to be going back doing this anyway. So I would say right up front, figure another 2 hours on the job to give you the time to properly educate and handhold with these systems. Otherwise, you're going to lose money on the thing because you're going to be going back on the callbacks anyway. Okay? Any questions on any of that stuff? Okay, incentives. This is the good part. Okay, this is excuse me, $750 for the first indoor unit on the ductless, $500 for the second unit. Okay. So we figure the average installed cost for 2 units is going to be around $7 grand. Is that kind of, you know, well, don't tell me because you're not allowed to actually. I'm sure antitrust. Let's pretend that we said so. So if it's around $1,250 incentive, that's about 15 to 20% covered. Not bad for a rebate program. It's, you know, pretty generous for a rebate. The incentives are available per housing unit, so two units per housing unit. Multifamily buildings are eligible for $750 for each multiple housing unit. Commercial buildings are eligible for incentives up to 2 systems per building. As far as the ductless is concerned, it's up to $500 a ton. And if you integrate it with the domestic hot water, that's another $500. Okay. The average installed cost for these central systems is probably going to be $10,000 to $12,000. So your incentive is about $2,000. So here again, we're about in that 15 to 20% category. We also incentivize the control. Okay, so it's the incentive, if you put in the integrated control for either system, the ductless or the integrated or the central system, you get $250 for that control, which will cover the incremental cost of the control. That's, you know, what's going to cost you to buy one and install one. And if you get one of Jake's free ones, you're going to be ahead of the game. Okay.
On the central Althermos, that's included, so it's no extra cost.
What's that?
It's included in all the Althermos.
So the Althermo essentially gets another $250 kicker on top, you know, because they all have controls. Now we talked after the first meeting. Somebody said, "Well, geez, you know, I got this condo project up at Killington, and I'll take all 60 of it." I said, "No, that wasn't the plan." Okay. So we decided we better put a limit in this because we want to have a lot of different people trying these installations in a lot of different situations, a lot of different installers. So we decided to do a $5,000 per building project cap. So if you have a large condo units, you can only get $5,000 for the whole mess. Okay. Any questions on any incentives? Now the next one, there's also going to be a finder's fee involved. Okay, the finder's fee is for BPI contractors who bring in a heating contractor to do the installation. This is if you're not going to do it yourself. You're going to sub that out. You get a $200 finder's fee. If you're a renewable installer, okay, you're doing a PV project and you bring in, you get the heat pump hooked to it, you bring in a heat pump installer, you get a $200 finder fee. Fuel dealers who who decide not to put these in, you can get a $200 finder's fee. So everybody can get finder's fees, except of course the person who's actually doing the installation, because the theory is you're going to make the profit. So, you know, if you want another $200, add another $200 to your price. I mean, that's how you can get yourself a finder's fee if you felt you needed one. However, we did get a question and said, well, what if a heating tech, a HVAC contractor finds the house, but then you find in order to qualify for the heat pump, you've got to do a weatherization job. And so you bring in a weatherization contractor, shouldn't you be incentivized too? And we decided the answer is, yeah, we think you should, we just have to figure out how to make it happen. Now another even smaller part of the seed fund than this program is a program to encourage fuel dealers to work with building performance contractors. We're not quite ready to roll that one out yet. We're having a meeting, a matter of fact, on Monday to talk about it. But we're hoping that a part of that will be that incentive. We're going to figure out how to do an incentive for that too. So you'll be hearing more about that part of it. Okay, so for now, no, you can't have an incentive for that, but we're hoping that we're going to get you one for figuring out how to do that.
I heard your question. And so basically, the question I think was, who's paying that finder's fee? So it's coming out of this seed fund, and the reason why it's in there is because if there's a contractor who's in a home doing some weatherization work, and they're thinking, wow, this house probably, we know it's eligible because I'm in there doing weatherization work, and it would be probably good to put a heat pump in, but what's the motivation for that guy to call somebody up and coordinate all that effort? There's just no motivation. So we're saying, hey, that's one other way. So we're running maybe 2,000 home performance projects through Efficiency Vermont this year. Those are all homes that could refer you guys to come in and do an installation in those, right? So we're trying to sweeten the pot a little bit. I mean, they should be identifying and getting this stuff done anyway, but we're giving them a financial motivation to notice things they might not have noticed before. So, I'm up anyway. The other part that Bob was saying, as far as the whole thing in reverse, if you're there to put in a heat pump and you say, well, this house isn't going to be eligible unless it runs through this home performance program, so I got to go out and get a home performance guy and bring them in and deal with all this hassle. Well, shouldn't you get an extra $200 too? And I think the answer we've decided is, yeah, we think you should, but we can't pay for it out of this pot because it doesn't get the heat pump installed necessarily. So we are trying to come up with a way to fund it because we think that it's a good way to help get you guys all working together. So the reservation system was put in place to make sure that your customers are going to have, that there is money going to be there for them to enable you to sell this and make sure that there's going to be money for them to get an incentive. So the way the EVT is Efficiency Vermont, the way that the reservation system is going to work is that the homeowner, after you've sort of pre-screened them, yeah, you think they're interested in they're in the CVPS territory, they're looking to put in the equipment that we all now know is eligible, their home's pretty efficient or they've been through some sort of program. So the next thing to do, and they use oil, the next thing to do is, or propane, is to have them call Efficiency Vermont to just make sure that everything is all set. We verify, yep, you're eligible, and we get them an incentive reserve. So they don't, in other words, you don't have to schedule and do the work like tomorrow or Monday. You can, as long as you get them to reserve their incentive, you guys can schedule it out for a couple months or whatever it is. If it's going to be more than, oh, I guess that's on the next page. I'll just jump there anyway. If it's going to be more than 60 days before they're going to have to call back, it's going to expire after 60 days. So you can only reserve for 60 days at this point. Homeowner can call in, get it extended, no big deal, but we want to make sure that the incentives are available for active customers, people who are actually going to be putting these things in. So after calling us in, we're going to make sure that the customer is using somebody who is approved to do this. So it's not just some random guy that decides, hey, I'm going to start installing heat pumps. It's somebody who's been through all of these steps that we've asked you all to go through. going through advanced training, coming to this thing, having your refrigeration license, all of that stuff. So we're going to make sure that all of you guys that fill out that eligible, we've sent those around, I believe, yeah. If you want to be an eligible installer, fill all that information out. As long as you meet all of the criteria that we've asked you to do, you're going to give that to us, and we're going to put you on our website. So customers can just come to the website and find you, but we're also going to use that internally just to verify that you are indeed eligible.
Would you guys have some kind of list of like factory training? Because I know we sell a lot of Mitsubishis, and I've yet to see any Mitsubishi training up here.
It's
really hard. It seems like it's hard to come by the factory training that is required.
Yeah, you got to go to Mass
I
to do
understand
it.
there's a dig. You guys have training, right?
We'll do training.
Yeah, the Fujitsu's in the Mitsubishis. We haven't seen any training.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for myself. There was somebody from Mitsubishi there yesterday, and I sort of said to him, Dave, there's going to be a lot of demand for this, and he said that he was going to see what he could figure out. But definitely, if you are putting in Mitsubishi, call them and holler at them. Tell them you want training,
Jeffrey,
and
May
soon,
7th,
if you want it soon.
Yeah. So they do a training in Mass. It's every couple of weeks or something like that.
We'll let you know when the next one is.
Yeah. But we are hoping. I mean, there's a lot of contractors, I think, in the area. It would be nice if it were in Rutland and not in Southborough, Mass. But I think, like Bob said, call and hassle them. Say, hey, look, I really want to do this, and if you know a couple other guys that would want to do it too, say we got at least 5, 6 guys who would do it. Is it worth your while to come to us so we don't know to come to you?
Dave's business card is back there on the table.
Good question here. Yeah.
It'd be a job to call back
Efficiency
there.
help with that, because when you have these application forms, you know the people that have checked off Mitsubishi.
Well, we're assuming if you check off Mitsubishi that you've been through their technical training. You've already been through you're one of their diamond contractors. We're verifying all of this. If you check that, we're looking it up. But that's what we're, not just that you're interested in putting in that equipment, but that you are certified to do it. You've received advanced technical training.
Well, you don't have to have a diamond. I mean, to get a diamond certification or whatever for Mitsubishi, you got to go out to Texas or something.
Nope, it's just Southborough, Mass. That's what we're talking about.
I mean, we're a dealer. We're like, if you look at Mitsubishi, we show up there. We haven't had factory training. So, I mean, I think you can be a dealer without the factory training.
Right, but to be a diamond dealer, which I am, you gotta go through all the factory training down in Mass, and then you become a diamond dealer, you get an extended warranty on.
We're looking for something here. We know there's a lot of guys out there who are perfectly capable of doing this, but we also know that there's a bunch of people out there who are gonna say they're good at it and have no idea what they're doing, and we have no way of determining the difference other than saying, getting references or something crazy like that. Otherwise, I'm just saying, you've been through this training, okay. And there's more to it. You have to do it for projects a year and pay. I'm sure you gotta pay something probably, right? You always gotta pay something.
My understanding, if you're a diamond contractor for Mitsubishi, is you have to hit a certain number of installs per
20
year.
20 per year, yeah.
So, some of the smaller companies, that's putting a pretty big target out there saying, hey, you have to do 20 years if you want to get on this program. Right?
It is.
But to sell 20 Mitsubishi is not hard here.
Right.
They sell really easy.
So, yeah, you're right. We're raising the bars high. I know it is.
Yeah. But do you have to be a diamond dealer or just have to have gone through the training?
You have to have gone through the training.
Okay, so you don't have to become a diamond dealer.
I believe, not a diamond dealer, but I think they call them diamond contractors.
Diamond
I could be
contractor,
wrong
whatever.
about
But you
that.
don't
I
have
believe
to.
that there's a designation for people who are installers. You don't have to be it.
But yeah, you just have to go to the training.
Just have to go to the
We
training.
don't care what they call you, as long as you went to the training. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Nick, did you just do that? No. Okay. I think Bill Morris used it. Okay. So I talked about a lot of this already. The end date, May 15th, 2014. These all have to be done by then. All reservations are going to expire on that date. So it's a ways away, but it's a year. Okay.
Okay, now we just pulled together the customer benefits for you.
Yeah, quick question before you move away from the incentive reservation process. Can you talk about closing that out, the EBT is gonna issue a check to the contractor?
We're gonna cover all that at the end, so
Okay,
I'll just.
Okay, so basically the story is you're gonna dramatically cut their heating bills. These things are more efficient. It's not cutting edge technology. This is proven technology. It's from, they've been doing it in Asia and Europe for a long time. They've been putting them in the Pacific Northwest for a long time. We've even been putting them in Vermont. We had a contractor in the Rutland sessions that said he's already put in 100 of these. So, this is happening, so it's not like your customer is boldly going where no one's gone before. Definitely quiet and comfortable, efficient, affordable, worry-free. And of course, if you tie it with solar PV, you move to a zero carbon footprint, which is, as I said, some people will spend a lot of money to do that. The story is basically these variable speed, high-tech heat pump and clean electricity keep your home comfortable. This is not your grandfather's resistance heat. Okay, this is a new kind of electric heat. And you couple this system with these your existing system with a hyper-efficient system, and it keeps your home warm and comfortable all through the year. Ultimately, the heat from these things is really the sun. If you think about it, you're working off of a temperature difference, so all the heat ultimately comes from the sun. So I think essentially, if you give it some thought, these are really all solar-powered heat pumps, because that's where the heat's coming from. And the other thing is, tying in with Green Mountain Power's mix of generation capacity is getting greener and greener all the time. They're using more and more wind, solar, and hydroelectric resources. So, this is definitely, a good thing. We're moving in the right direction here with all of this. How did I do on that, Bruce? Is it Bruce wrote that?
Good job,
How's that? Good job. Good writing. Any questions about the basic? Yes.
I'm from the renewable energy industry, and your last statement that you have a clean generation mix, how much of GMP CV's RECs are being sold out of state?
Not very many. We do, in fact, we buy RECs for the cow power program, and this, demand exceeds the supply. Right now, that's going the other direction. I don't think we're selling any RECs really.
Isn't Searsburg sold out of state?
I don't know, I'd have to find out. I mean, let me address your question a little different way. We're about half renewable. The argument you're making, I think, is if you sell the RECs, it's now system power, literally. It's fact against the law to call it renewable if it's the direction itself. So I hear what you're saying, but we are getting more renewable. We used to be much less, we used to be more carbon free because of DY, but that contract is really dwindling down. We're thinking about more power from Hydro-Quebec. We're installing more solar every day, so we're getting there. But point taken, we're not 100% renewable. Now the other difference between us and say the Midwest is that the nation as a whole is about half coal. Coal units emit a little over 2 pounds of carbon per kilowatt hour. The New England mix is very much natural gas on the margin. So when we do change something on the margin, it's less than 1 pound per kilowatt hour. So even though it's not 100% renewable, our carbon per kilowatt hour is far lower than the rest of the country. Point taken, we're not squeaky clean.
And if I could put some words in your mouth, I think GMP would also be thrilled to see all our trackers on every one of these systems. So
we would too. And just a point on renewables is I heard something about the Public Service Department not wanting to see electrical load go up, but we're going to have to move to electricity for heating and transportation. So we're going to see the load go up, but hopefully that will all be.
They don't want it to go up with this program. That's what they meant.
Yeah, let's expand on this, because I think that's an interesting point. So if we wanted to reduce our carbon in Vermont, what would we target? Electricity? No. We'd target automobiles,
oil, gas,
transportation fuel, and heating fuel, right?
Absolutely.
So almost all of our carbon comes from heating and transportation.
Yes,
so,
this is what this fixes.
So I've got my Chevy Volt outside, and I've got my heat pumps, including my heat pump water heater, I'm working on solar for my standing seam, thin film, peel and stick. So I'm working there. One of the things that we talked about at the REV conference with the net zero folks is, if you've got a strategy, like I just claimed I've got a strategy to get to net zero. How do I get there? Is it important that I do one or the other first? Not really. These save so much money that now I can afford to do a little more weatherizing, I can afford my Chevy Volt, and I can afford my photovoltaic. So I think as step one in an integrated strategy, this is a really good step.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Air source heat pumps is the incredible future of where we're going for heating. It has to be.
And
we have to get off of oil.
Unlike my Chevy Volt, these things are actually affordable. The Volt, frankly, is kind of an expensive toy.
To get a little more specific, I did sort of blow past what the department wanted in terms of not adding electricity to the grid. More specifically, what they're really concerned about is increasing summer peak. Okay, and that is a legitimate concern, and I don't want to blow that off. I mean, I think there's going to be a little bit. And what we've talked about with solar, why solar pairs so well, is that first you got longer days during the summertime. You're gonna put a big bump on the grid from any solar that goes in is going to by far offset any summer peak building that we might get. So that's kind of that's more the concern than the sort of winter infill.
And also any of the window units we get rid of, replace, is going to be a huge.
And if you think about the draw of these things for winter and summer, Bob was talking, these things are essentially variable frequency drives. You've got a delta T in the summer of something probably like 20 degrees, whereas the delta T in the winter could be as high as 50, 60, 70. So they really are not straining much in cooling.
They're very, very good in cooling.
And they're not taking many kW. And if there were existing air conditioning units in the windows, your summer peak might actually be coming down. So we're mindful of the summer peak, but it's not a huge area.
Okay. As far as marketing, sales materials and marketing support, not going to be a whole lot. As we said, we're trying to put all the money into the rebates that we can. But we do have the two pieces we passed out. There is going to be financing opportunities listed on the EVT website. How they can help you with some of the financing for some of the big jobs. And we're going to do a follow-up survey this fall. EVT is going to send out a written survey to all the people who put these in, and they're also going to send another copy of the customer operation sheet in case they lost the one that you gave in the summer, to remind them about that. So we're just going to see how, get a kind of a general feeling of how everything's going and if they're happy with it so far and if they have any questions. Okay, technical assistance support, Jake?
Sure. So you guys are going to be the primary line of dealing with most technical assistance. I mean, we're really assuming that just as you always have been, we don't want to insert ourselves into the relationship between you and your customer. You guys know what you're doing. We're counting on the fact that you know what you're doing these installs. That's part of why we're going to such great lengths to set up all this eligibility criteria, is we want to be sure, we are going to be sure that everybody who's putting these in does know how these things work and is able to provide good technical assistance to their customers. Of course, there is a whole chain of command, right? If you have any issues with the equipment, you go back to the distributor, and then they go back to the manufacturer, and all of that stuff is going to remain exactly the same as it always has been with any kind of HVAC equipment. Is anybody here familiar with NeighborWorks? A couple of people are familiar with NeighborWorks. If you are working in an area where NeighborWorks is, I'm not going to go on a big spiel about them, but basically they're involved with the home performance program. They have a heat squad. It's sort of an additional service to help people understand and move forward with energy decisions on their homes. If NeighborWorks is involved, they're also in a particular project, and you'll know if they are, they're going to provide some additional technical assistance through what they call their energy advisor. They have an energy advisor that gets assigned to every job. And then we also are going to have, if your customers, for whatever reason, want to call up a third-party independent resource, Efficiency Vermont will have some people trained, and there's sort of a chain of command within our organization as to how, depending on what the conversations are or the questions are, it will flow through our organization. Our customer service staff is going to be trained to be able to answer some basic program questions. If you guys aren't really clear, or if you lose your program guide or whatever, you can send them to us. Of course, they will loop really technical, kind of weird questions. Will probably end up with me, honestly. So, just let you know that that resource is there. As far as quality assurance goes, one other thing that we are going to ask of you guys is that whoever you're getting this equipment from, some representative of the manufacturer is going to have to come out on site and sign off that you guys know what you're doing on your first install. If you've done 100 installs already and you can get them to write something up that says Joe of Joe's AC he knows what he's doing, he's done 100 of these installs, that's fine with us. We want there to be some level of sign off that, again, you're not just somebody who got all excited, took a bunch of trainings, and is ready to go, but has no idea what they're doing. We want the manufacturer out there with you on one install, just to say, yep, went well. We're happy with it. The other piece is that we've got this QA checklist. This is the only form, other than the ones you've already, the registration forms. It's the only thing we're going to actually ask you guys as installers to actually fill out. So I'm going to send these around. It's pretty simple. We're going to ask you to do this for every job that you do. And all it is really just a list of things that we want to make sure you've paid attention to. There's a little bit of information in the beginning about who you are and who the customer is and what equipment you put in. But other than that, it's just some very basic, essentially some very basic information that you've paid attention to. The fact that the unit, for example, outdoor unit is up off the ground. That this gentleman mentioned, those kinds of things. So again, not trying to make a big pain in your butt, just something for you to self-certify. You don't have anyone else looking over your shoulder. We just want to make sure that you're paying attention to some key things related to the quality installation so that these all go well. Maybe it'll even be helpful to have a little extra reminder out on site to say, oh right, I do have to remember to talk to the homeowner about how this thing actually works. So that's all it really is with that. You save that copy and make copies of it to bring for each of your installs. If you lose it or you use that one, we will have copies on our, you can download from the website, Efficiency Vermont website. So we're not sending out enough for everybody to get 10 of them though. Keep rolling here. So the other big piece to this is, this is a pilot, right? We're not talking about 1 million units here, but what we're really looking to do is we want to help stimulate this market. We also want to collect some really good, solid information about how these installations are actually working so that for the future we may be able to develop a more long-running program. Okay, this is sort of the trial run here. And in order to meter 10 homes, we're going to really be looking to you guys to help us identify customers that might be good, people who are excited about this, or maybe some of you guys are looking to put one of these in your own home. I've had a few people, a couple of contractors who are like, yeah, I'm going to put one of these in my house, and I'd love to meter it and see how it works. So we're actually talking about putting in circuit level metering for the electrical. So somebody over here was asking, you know, have you ever put a meter on to see how much energy these things are making? So we're actually going to be collecting a year's worth of information on these things, exactly how they're operating. We're going to be metering outdoor temperature, indoor temperature in a variety of different locations. We're actually going to be calculating the COP at which these things are actually operating in the field. So we're going to take all that information. The state is really interested in it. Efficiency Vermont is really interested in it. A lot of the manufacturers are interested. How are our installations doing in Vermont? And this is relatively new territory for them too. So we need that feedback. We need you guys to help us get good information so that we can figure out how much energy do these things really save for people? How well are they working? Are there situations, certain kinds of homes where there's a single zone heating system where they're not working that well because the people have to keep cranking on their central system so they don't have a freeze up? These are the kinds of things that we can all sit around here and theorize and philosophize about what's going to work and what isn't, but we want some data. We need real data to be able to say, yes, this is not only are they working, but this is how well they're working, and we can take that and we can build programs on that that will be incentives and help us all sell these things well into the future. So, to sort of summarize how this process is really all going to work, how this program is going to work, as I said earlier, customers either going to come directly to you. You all have your own marketing, your own outreach, your own networks, your own customers already. So we're assuming that a lot of people are going to come into the process really just through you guys. You're going to sell them, just like you have been. They may also contact us, or NeighborWorks, or they may contact, or a BPI contractor, one of these people who's in there doing one of these home performance projects. They may end up bringing you guys in, but one way or another, the one constant in all this is that an eligible HVAC contractor who does these installs is going to come into this process. Once they come in, you're going to sort of help your customer determine if the building is eligible, the equipment is eligible, all that stuff that we were talking about earlier. You're going to help that use your little guide that we gave you, just go back through it, do a pre-screening as well as you can to help you make that sale right at the time. And if you're confident, I think this person's going to meet all these criteria, then you have them contact us at Efficiency Vermont. There's a phone number on there, or they can look it up on the website, on our website. They're going to contact us, we're going to verify they're eligible, and what we're going to do is once we verify that they're eligible, we're going to send them a reservation form. It's a written form. We're going to send that to them. When they email it to them, when they mail that to them, it's going to be, we'll work that out. And then the homeowner, so then they're going to send that into us, and we're going to reserve that incentive. So once that incentive is reserved, you go ahead, you install the system. If there's some need to weatherize the home, help them, hook them up with one of these BPI contractors. I don't know, any of you guys in the room have some business cards you could leave with these guys? But we could, anyway, we got Ted here, we got Jim Bradley in the back. You could talk to both of those guys. I'm sure Nick would be happy to talk to you on behalf of Building Energy. That's just a few contractors. There's a whole bunch of them. If you go on the Efficiency Vermont website, there's a list of other guys. But these guys are obviously interested in heat pumps, so you can talk to them. If you need to do something together to make this whole thing work, there you go. That's your resource for doing that. So once all of that is all done, the system's installed, the building's weatherized, the customer's going to send in an incentive form along with the invoice that you've given them to prove that in fact this thing has been installed. And we're going to then send the customer the incentive. It's not an incentive that comes to you guys. Your incentive is to sell the equipment. The incentive goes to the customer. So.
Does this run along with the home performance incentives as well?
It's additional to.
So it is additional. So if you can capture everything, weatherization, and they could be up to what would it be, $3,200, $3,250?
Yeah. So there's $2,000. What Jim's referring to is the fact that the home performance program that we keep mentioning has incentives attached to it as well. So there's up to $2,000 for customers to do that work. So you're not just asking them to just do this without any help. You've got money for that. We have a max of $2,000 right now, but with the $1,250 for 2 heat pumps, they theoretically could max out at $3,250 if they did heat pump and a weatherization project.
And Jake, you're saying there's just going to be about 50 to 60 installations allowed under this program?
Yeah, minimum.
And it does. Oh, so this is going to go on until 2014, no matter how many are installed?
No, we run out of money. It's going to go on until we run out of money. So if there's a big, if we open the floodgates and we get 75 of these things, on Monday afternoon,
sure,
we're going to have to put the brakes on, figure out how much money we got.
Okay.
But we don't think it's going to happen quite that way. We think it's going to. There's a lot of people who are excited to do this. I mean, just right now, by a show of hands, do you all have customers, or do any of you have customers you think that might, now that you've heard all this stuff, that might be eligible?
Yep.
A couple here and there, so a few. we did I asked that same question at the meeting in Rutland. I think we got about 17 people raise their hands. So there's definitely a lot of people out there that are going to be putting these in pretty quick. So.
Does $100 toward the cost of the audit is necessary to satisfy here as well?
Yeah, all of that stuff is all the same as it always has been. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Question? Yep.
Going back to your total budget, you said you had $300,000 for the whole program, but how much do you have just for the rebate?
We don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that. I want to know. I've asked. I am not the program manager. I asked the program manager. She didn't know either. So we obviously have to figure that out. We're in the process of getting that all sorted out right now. We're saying we're trying to do at least 60 of these projects. We'd like to see there be quite a few more than that.
You may touch on it already. Federal tax credits on these.
Another good question. My understanding, I'm not a tax accountant. I can't take my word on this. My understanding is that there are tax credits available for these installs, but it's part of a larger context of it has to be energy, I think Energy Star improvements or something like that. All this equipment would fall under that category.
Or combined with solar.
Yeah, so
if there's PV combination, you can bundle it all together if it goes in at the same time.
I used to be a member of CBTS. What happened to the rest of the money?
Oh, there's a lot. This is one little tiny program out of a whole bunch of other things. So there's a lot of other programs. And actually, if you want to find out more about the seed stuff in general, go to the GNP seed website. There's a lot of great information there about all the different programs that are being funded through this. And the idea was they want to put out the money in ways that are going to be investment for everybody. So, I mean, it was going to be like $75 a piece or something. I know a lot of people would have just as soon had the check, but didn't go that way. And I think for the industry, it's a good thing.
The programs on the webpage are for the first year. It's a multi-year program, so it'll be changing over time. So if you want to see what's going on, you can always go to the webpage and see where we are.
Okay. Bruce, do you have anything to share?
No, I'd love to see it get heat pumps out in this program and don't feel limited to this. If you have customers that want to buy them and not through this program, they don't qualify, I think I'd encourage them. And like that strategy we talked about with the net zero folks, use the savings from the heat pumps to start doing other projects, including solar PV and more weatherization. So I encourage you to get going. I've got them in my house. I've had it since 2008. I'm saving thousands of dollars. It's been great. So I'd like to see other people participate.
And this, this is all happening quickly, and I know that this isn't necessarily this program in and of itself, and the incentives that are here isn't necessarily going to revolutionize the entire industry, but what I can say is this is a piece of a whole lot of movement in this. I mean, I think just yesterday alone, I knew of 4 talks about heat pumps that were going on across the state. So it's coming. It's going big. Obviously you all have acknowledged that this is something important. Those of you who've already been doing it already know. Those of you who are thinking about getting into it, it's happening. So.
Yeah, there's reason, you may think, gee, it hasn't all been thought out completely, or we got approved for this on March 21st, so that's how fast we've rolled this out. And the reason we're in a big hurry is because the air conditioning season is here. I mean, people are going to buy air conditioning this year, they're calling you right now. So that's why we said we've got to get this out as fast as we can, get it started. So there are other, as I said, a lot of the other seed programs are coming, but this one was a big rush because of the season. We didn't want to miss this season now. That was the big push. So you'll be hearing about other programs going forward. It's going to be other exciting things that we're going to be doing as well. Everybody, if you haven't given me the registration form, just be sure you get it so we'll give you credit for being here today.
And for all of those that are interested in being an eligible installer, please either, if you don't have that filled up today, which is fine, mail it back to us as soon as you possibly can so we can get that up on our website as soon as we can. Okay? Thanks for coming.
Great. Thank you a lot.